Hey, everybody, and welcome to F.L.O.W Presents. This month, our theme is politics and you can't see me because someone on our production team, switched the camera. Anywho, we'll start that over. Welcome to Politics and I am your host, Susan Harris. And this month we are talking about, yes, politics. And today we're going to be talking about pop culture. Now, before we get into this, I want to remind everybody to like, share, and subscribe this video. We want everybody to get an opportunity to be a part of this conversation. So I'm gonna give y'all a second for that because y'all can't get none of this good stuff until you do that. Share, like, subscribe, all that. Alrighty, now, I am going to forego the introductions because most of the people on this call or on the Zoom panel you've seen already. And if you haven't seen them, their voices are loud enough that you will know who they are by the end of this. So we'll just get into it. I'm going to ask everybody on the panel to answer this question. Do you feel as though pop culture has an influence on politics? And I want you to feel free to elaborate. So the question again is, do you feel as though pop culture influences politics? And we're going to start with Dylan. You're on mute, Dylan.
On mute. Can you hear me now? Cool. Yeah, so it definitely has a big influence on politics, not just from presidential candidates trying to do the dab or whatever, but from what they, what they're able to, how they're able to relate to their people. So you'll see different examples of this in all levels of government, and realistically, it's just a tool, a conversation tool for people to be able to relate and have something to talk about and seem relatable. They have an entire team of people working in the shadows to make sure that they're staying current, staying, in the now and in the know. So it definitely has a pretty big correlation.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else feel free to jump in.
Pop culture definitely has a very big impact on politics and that kind of stuff, but I don't think it's because of the politicians. I think it's because of social media and the celebrities and stuff that are getting more involved in politics now. We know that politicians have this vested interest in seeming like they're hip and, with the times, they can relate, all that stuff. So most of us really don't buy it anymore, whether or not, they're actually doing it correctly or not. We're kind of like, yeah, I guess. So it more comes down to like the celebrities that are endorsing them or not endorsing them, or are like, okay, yeah, they're a little bit shady, but they're better than this person, or I'm gonna go with them because of whatever the reason is. So like, it's not so much the politician, it's the people that we like, the celebrities that we like, that go with the politician.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I would just add quickly that in terms of pop culture influencing politics, I think it's the amount of influence that the celebrities in those have. It has the possibility to bend the politicians in a certain way. When you have a large following and you can say, hey, all my followers do this, then you might have a voice with certain people. And when you can have Kanye West running for president and people are like, you know what, he's better than the other two options, I just might, like that's a pretty big influence, I would say, for somebody in the pop culture scene to have in the political sphere.
So I agree with what everyone says so far. Pop culture definitely has a role in politics, and politics has a role in pop culture as well. I think that they both influence each other. People that are in pop culture have a have an audience and have a sort of power in this society that gives them a spotlight and that influences others to make certain decisions, especially in regards to how they vote. So even when we look at like during this election where you have Spike Lee who's posting like the right thing, love and hate. You have the free 21 Savage. You have the free, the R. Kelly and the Me Too movement. Like there's so many, and then also you have we're gonna talk about the WAP thing later, but that is a prime example of how do we talk about women in the pulpit? How do we how do we talk about women in the Bible? And is it okay for a woman in the hip hop sphere to talk about their own body in the way that dudes be talking about their own things that they own? You know what I'm saying? And so I think that we try to over police pop culture in a lot of ways to try to have our own political spheres attached onto them, even though that they might have a different perspective of their own bodies.
Thank you so much, Arthur, for that. So you guys touch on a lot, and what I've been hearing from everybody is essentially we can talk about political candidates, but the reality is that a lot of people listen to celebrities as it relates to political views and what have you. They look to celebrities to help them to determine which side of the fence that they're on. And we know that politics, can be very polarizing. And so I'm really excited to get into this discussion today. We are going to start first with a little sports talk. So if you've been paying attention to sports at all, which some of you haven't, it seems, that's fine, because I'm going to give you some highlights that have been happening over the course of the last couple of weeks, as well as play a clip for you, and we're going to kind of dig into sports and politics. So I don't know if you guys heard about this story, but this week the Kansas City Chiefs took to the football field and they decided to lock arms in unity. They didn't make a statement because they didn't want to offend any of the groups of people that were represented in the stands. So they did have, I think they were at like 22% capacity in the stands. There were people actually there. Even still, the fans that were listening booed them, booed the players for their stand. Then 2 weeks prior to that, the Milwaukee Bucks refused to take the court during one of their playoff games to protest the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We also had Kyrie Irving boldly suggesting that his team, which is the Brooklyn Nets, boycott this second season and eventually start their own league. And finally, we can't forget about Colin Kaepernick, who refused to stand during the national anthem in protest for the unjust killings of African-American men by police. We're gonna get to your opinion on this in a second, but there was a discussion that happened on ESPN this week, and one of the professional athletes actually weighed in on what he thought the situation was. So we're gonna play a clip for that first, and then we're gonna talk about it.
Okay. There's so much here that I think we could try to get to. We don't even have the time. Think about what Deshaun Watson said, though. This isn't even about creating trouble anymore, right? Deshaun Watson said we didn't want to get it confused with some people standing for one anthem and kneeling for another. They were actually thinking about the fans. They were actually thinking about people. This was about total unity and avoiding divisiveness at any cost. Because to me, it makes a statement. If you stand for one anthem and you kneel for another, it's saying that this is where we believe the society needs to go. And this anthem says and speaks about where we used to be and where this country is supposed to be for everybody, but it is not. But instead of doing that, they said, instead of causing that division, instead of making that statement, we'll just stay in the locker room for both. They didn't come out for one and go in for another. They didn't kneel for one and stand for another. They weren't out there for either. So no statement was made at all. And then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, who were out there for the singing of the anthem. They did have one guy kneel. There wasn't any division there. There wasn't any statement made there other than end racism in the end zone. There wasn't a ton done by the NFL to say, you know what, we're going to demonstrate, we're going to protest, we're going to stand up for social justice, we're going to stand up in the fight against racism. It wasn't that type of night. Other than Chris Collinsworth talking about it a little bit, it was truly about football. And so then Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson, two black dudes that are the highest paid players in NFL history, decide we're going to come together. We're going to come together for unity. We're going to come together to say that we are all in this fight for the same thing. We want everyone to be treated equally. We want everyone to have the same justice system. We want everyone to get the same rights and protections that are theirs by law. So we're just going to come together and do it. We're not going to kneel. It's not going to mess up the anthem. It's not going to destroy your day in any way. And then J.J. Watt says, well, we just came together for unity. I don't really understand why people would boo. Well, I'm going to help him out. They're booing because you're doing stuff for black people. They're booing because you are saying that police brutality, social injustice against that community is wrong. That's why they're booing. Not because y'all linked up, not because white players are hanging out with black players and they see things the same way. It's about the thing you see the same way. It's about the injustices that they are incurring because of the way that this country sees a certain color of skin bothers them that you care. Because if y'all linked up for breast cancer, they're going to clap. If you link up for autism, they're going to clap. If you link up to pay homage or to say and honor veterans, they're going to clap. I know they're going to clap because I've been there and I've linked up for those things. But you linked up to say that black people need to be treated differently. That's the problem. This was the kindest, this was the most thoughtful, this was the sweetest way to protest or to demonstrate that we've seen ever. It's almost like it didn't even happen. And people still boo that. That tells you the type of evil, the type of racism that is truly the fabric of this country and how it was built. It's not going to change.
Okay, so I want to take a second to digest that a little bit, what you just heard. And then I want to let you know why I wanted that clip played. Because in the examples that I gave before about Colin Kaepernick and about the Kansas City Chiefs, and then on the opposite side, the way that the NBA as a whole has been reacting and responding to injustices among Black people, you know, as Ryan says in the clip, the NFL has been pretty peaceful in their protests. They don't overtly say, we're going to sit out and we're not going to stand for injustice or X, Y, and Z. They just link arms, or they sit in their locker rooms until the game starts, or they take a knee. Whereas in the NBA, we see more direct protests. You know, NBA players are wearing jerseys that have the names of African Americans who have been killed by police. You see commercials in between the game sessions where people are talking very vocal about injustice. And so my question is, what stance do you feel like we collectively need to take when it comes to that? Do you think we need to be more like the NFL or more like the NBA in our approach? That's the first part of my question. And then the other part of my question is why? And do you feel like what is happening, do you feel like the way that they're protesting these two groups of people is effective? I'm gonna go start with author.
Okay, so first of all, it reminded me of Muhammad Ali back in, when he was the best in the world. I have no quarrel with the Viet Cong. We also have, during the 1968, I believe, Olympics, when it was Tommy Smith and John Carlos who had put their fists up when
Mm-hmm.
they medals. We've seen outward protest, outward activism for Black lives, for Black justice, for justice for Black people in the sports sphere. And I think that a lot of times when we think about people that are booing, it's not just white folks, but it's also some of our own people that don't want to, to protest in a certain way. And so it reminds me of like the letter from Birmingham jail when Dr. King Jr. talked about the white moderate, he also talked about Black people who said, I don't want to go out and protest. So I believe that Jesus is on the side of the oppressed, that Jesus does not want any of us to be in a oppressive state. And I think that, to fight for justice, Dr. Cornel West said that justice is what love looks like in public. And so, we must advocate for justice because that is the love that Jesus wants for us to advocate for.
Thank you, Arthur. Anybody else want to jump in there?
I will. I like what you said there, Arthur. That quote was really nice and relevant. But I think that there may have been a time in my life when I would have been more on the NFL side, like, let's be subtle with it. Let's tiptoe around people's feelings, because how can you reach them if they already closed walls and, all that kind of stuff. But at this point, I'm starting to see that, like, the timid little, please, sir, please, it ain't working. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not working. So we have to be in the face. We have to be loud. You know what I mean? We can't be, quiet and soft anymore. We have to be, and I've seen a lot of discussion on social media recently in the past few months, especially following the killing of George Floyd, where it's like, oh, well, Dr. King wouldn't be happy with the riots, and Dr. King it's like, but y'all killed him too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like the peace got anywhere. Yeah, we got the Civil Rights Act signed and the Voting Rights Act, but he still was killed. It's not like y'all were so happy with him that now he's an old man living his life and watching his grandchildren. He's also dead. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not like, it was like, damned if you do, damned if you don't. You might as well be loud and in your face, because the other way ain't working,
Right.
So that's what I say. I'm with the NBA on this one.
Thank you for that mistake. Anyone else?
So I back what the NBA is doing, because they're making the most noise, I believe. I also saw Osaka, I believe her last name is. She's a tennis player.
Naomi Osaka.
She forfeited a match in protest, and I respected that so much, because it cost her something to be like, I'm not going to do this. Like, it was a protest that cost her something, and I respect that. I do think that with stuff like what the NFL is doing, they're trying to like play both sides and keep everybody happy type of thing, which you can't do. And I mean, even like, all they did was link hands and people were mad at them. I feel like at this point, I feel like if you're going to be mad no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to just do it up. I'm going to ball out. If you're going to be mad, I'm going to give you a good reason. I am. Right. I'm going to have ads in your face. I'm going to be out here with masks, shirt, pants, everything. I'm going to be out here with picket signs. You going to see me and you going to hear me. Because when I was talking to you nicely and I was like, look, I feel like we could work this out, you got mad at me and he was like, I don't want to hear it. I bet. Now you gonna have to hear me. You can't ignore me. So I definitely respect the players that, like, out there with the shirts or forfeiting stuff or are like putting some of themselves on the line type of thing, because I feel like at that level you're almost you almost have an obligation to do that kind of like a big thing to like bring eyes to the problem.
Right. Dylan, you got anything else you want to add?
Yeah, it's always a good thing to see solidarity in players when they're out there. They have a level, a platform where millions of people are seeing them, not just in America but like around the world. And it just goes to show that if you have a platform, use it. Now, people may be trying to figure out how to do this on two different sides, like the NBA and the NFL. Realistically, I find it kind of phony from the NFL because I'm just like, they were, creating random little laws and trying to ban people and suspend people. And they were like, Colin Kaepernick knelt, and other people try to do the same thing in the NFL, and they were just like, oh, well, this subsection C, da da da. And today, it's like, if they were to do that, they would probably have like a line of Black Panthers around every stadium just trying to like block out every game or something. Like, so now they're just really trying to cater to everybody. So in my eyes, it's kind of fake and phony. I feel like free speech is free speech. Demonstration is demonstration, and even with NASCAR. So Bubba Wallace, one of the only Black people I've ever even heard about in NASCAR racing. So I actually wanted to be in NASCAR racing until I found out it was sort of like truck driving, and you just 100-degree heat driving around the oval, turn to the left. Even after they found out that it may not have been a hate crime or whatever, and the FBI investigated it, he still had the solidarity of everybody that came there to race walking down the field with him. And it brought him to tears. And I never thought that I would ever see NASCAR do that, but use your platform.
Okay. Thank you, Dylan. So we're talking about platform here, and that actually leads me into this next question. It has to do with the NFL, but it also has to do with celebrities in general. I'll start with LeBron James and how Tomi Lahren told LeBron James that he needs to shut up and dribble when he was speaking out against racial injustice. Think about, but on the other side, on the flip side, or another example is like Jay-Z, and how a lot of people were mad at Jay-Z when he decided to sign a contract with the NFL. He decided to have a partnership, create a partnership with the NFL to do things to support Black people and minorities, when Colin Kaepernick was basically blacklisted by the NFL. And a lot of people felt like he should have been in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, or they should have at least come together and created some sort of plan so that Colin Kaepernick was supported. And people were accusing Jay-Z of looking out for himself as opposed to looking out for the Black community. So my question is, when it comes to this topic, should we be expecting people with large platforms to look out for their own interests, or should their priority be the community, the Black collective? And I'm going to start with Vondell on this.
So I think it's nice when they use their platform in our favor, to draw attention to the cause and stuff like that. But it is not, I did say before that it's almost an obligation, but it's not like a set in stone one. I personally, I feel like I lose a little bit of, not that I really care that much about what celebrities doing anyway, but like I lose some respect for you. Like I'm less likely to like back you or buy anything that you're selling or whatever it is if I feel like you're not with us. I do understand that like self-preservation is a thing and you want to make your money. I'm technically not mad at Jay-Z for whatever deal he made with the NFL and maybe not backing Kaepernick the way he should have, but I'm not surprised. It's Jay-Z. Like, my man is here to make money and be like, he's never been, as far as I know, he's never been, a political activist out here trying to make waves type of thing. So I was not expecting that kind of thing from him. I would have been pleasantly surprised if he had. And I'm always happy to see, big celebrities like either give, a piece of their platform to smaller activists, that kind of stuff, to draw attention, that kind of stuff. But it is not something that they have to do, which I think a lot of us should keep in mind. You can make your decisions based on what they're doing. If they're not doing what you want them to do, you do not have to back them. You do not have to support them. And I certainly don't. If I don't like what you're doing, I just don't go with it. But I'm not gonna go out of my way to be like, oh, you're terrible and take the whole thing down, because you're doing, freedom of speech goes both ways. As long as you're not actively hurting someone, I feel like, it's not that serious, kind of.
Okay, Dylan.
So just going from what Vondell said, so another great person that people look up to, Michael Jordan. After watching The Last Dance, I never knew that he had the opportunity to actually support one of the black, I think it was a congressman, I believe, or if he was whatever he was running for, black Democrat dude, and Michael Jordan had the opportunity to basically support him or bring up his name and in some way, support him and bring that, more black people into the government in that sense. And Michael Jordan basically like turned it down. His mom called him, was like, yo, you should probably do this. And in our eyes, maybe he should have, realistically, but again, he doesn't have to. He's in a whole different stratosphere than us. And realistically, if you're not well versed in that, and he didn't really know his information on the guy and whatnot, maybe he was right in that. But again, it is his decision. As for like not Kanye, but as for Jay-Z, if he's doing some things that will eventually help us with the NFL. But there are certain people that have to go do the things that we can kind of see as things we wouldn't like, right? Like Jay-Z and working at Donald Trump, with incarceration stuff, Kim Kardashian doing the same thing. And yeah, it's just certain things that some people have to do the dirty work. I'm just gonna leave it there.
Okay, and a lot of people consider that dirty work selling out. Just wanted to put that in there. Arthur and Mystique, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I guess I'm a little different on this one, because I do expect people to use their platforms. Like, I think they are obligated, especially when the community that could benefit from you using that platform is the ones that got you where you are. So I do believe that there's an obligation. It kind of goes back to just the sense of community. Like, it's like, why would I, when I get out, not try to pull the next person up with me? So if it's like the community got you where you are, and then you're just like, all right, y'all, I'll see y'all, when y'all get up here, and you're not really, using what you have in order to get them to the next level. I think that's a problem. So I do expect people to use their platforms in that way. And I was a bit disappointed with Jay-Z, especially because the fact that Colin Kaepernick was still, blacklisted and treated unfairly. And I was disappointed with some of the other players who did not unite with him in terms of kneeling or, whatever, at least speaking out and saying that this is not right. So yeah, I do expect that from people, and hopefully more people will come around.
Thank you.
I believe that like Jay-Z said that like we move past kneeling, and saying a quote like that really puts Colin Kaepernick in like an even worse light than he already was. And so I definitely agree with what Mystique was saying. I do think that people don't like focus on the fact that Jay-Z is really he's about bringing people together, okay? And he has this Reform Alliance where he brought Meek Mill, Van Jones, Michael Rubin, like Robert Kraft. He even brought Robert Smith and some other like really big name people to address the criminal justice system, and really to start writing bills, propose certain changes that are in law enforcement, trying to change how different departments are even funded, things like that, through the Reform Alliance. So I think that people fight in different ways. And I think that fighting is not just in one way. I think that I don't expect them to fight for the people who had supported them and brought them up, but I think that they have a responsibility to advocate for those people. So even though I don't expect it, I do think that there is a responsibility for them to do that.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to read something, a YouTube comment. Someone says, Jay-Z's deal has done nothing to help marginalized communities. So in that aspect, I think he's phony. Thank you so much for sharing that. And of course, when we're having conversations like this, we can't leave the church out of it, because that's one of the reasons why we're here. So as we're talking about platforms, do you think that the church is doing enough with the influence that we have as it relates? I see some people side-eyeing right now, with the influence that we have to speak against the injustices that are happening among African Americans. Do you feel like we're taking more the NFL approach, or are we taking the NBA approach? What are your thoughts? Dylan?
NFL approach, that's all I'm gonna say.
Mystique has her hand up.
I think we've been kind of I don't want to say brainwashed, but we've accepted the one thing I heard all the time was, this world is not our home, and all this kind of stuff. So it's like we just kind of sit back and coast and wait for Jesus to come, and then everything will be okay. And it's like, but Jesus didn't even do that. You know what I mean? Like he came with a mission, and he still were like, okay, and feed the poor and advocate for the widows and the orphans. Like he still told people, until I get here, this is what I need y'all to do. And so we sitting here, I used to get upset when I would hear certain preachers say, oh, you so heavenly minded, you have no earthly good. And I was like, okay, but it's okay to be heavenly minded. But then I realized we abuse that heavenly mindedness so much so that we really are no earthly good. Like we really aren't any earthly good sometimes, when we're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna wait, for heaven, and whatever, just kind of stay under the radar and not shake anything up, just whatever. This is not our place. We need to stay out of politics. We need to stay out of this. And it's like, but then what are we really doing to to advance the cause of the oppressed and the poor, and all that kind of stuff that Jesus spent a whole lot of time talking about? We're doing nothing.
So are you basically saying we don't need to shut up and dribble? Is
No,
that what you're trying to say? Dylan had his hand up. Go ahead, Dylan.
So just another quick snippet. I just food for thought in a form of a question. How can you love your neighbor when one of your own is suffering? That's all I'm saying.
Wait, nah. Say more.
It's an honest question. Like, one of us is suffering, right? The thing is, the first thing we say is the first thing that's said back to us when we say Black Lives Matter is, well, that's not fair because all lives matter. And I'm like, well, okay, if all lives matter, one of us is suffering right now. What do you think about that? Well, it sucks, but we'll get through this, and it's just like, as soon as you explain and you break it down, it seems to be an issue and something that if your particular group is not suffering from it, you empathize with it, and you're sort of like tolerating it and not helping the situation. So again, if and a lot of godly people will sit there and be like, well, this is just one of those things that we're going to have to go through before God comes back to set
mercy.
And I'm just like, so do you think that you're loving your neighbor and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, and God's going to come back for you? If you was sitting there watching your family, right, getting beaten in the streets, and you said nothing about it.
Vando.
Okay, so Mystique said the quote that I learned in church that I hate. This world is not our home, and I've learned. I hate to hear people say that, because the way I think about it is like, okay, if I'm at an Airbnb, right? No, that is not my house. However, I'm not going to be up in here acting a fool. I'm not going to be, spraying liquor on the walls, having all sorts of people come through. I'm not going to let nobody trash the place. I got to stay here for the week, the month, whatever it is. I have to live here, which means I have something invested with being here. I need to take care of my surroundings.
That deposit.
Exactly. I want my, I have things invested in this. But I also, on a very broad scale, I am definitely I have many beefs with the SDA church at large. But I'm very disappointed but not surprised in how the SDA church goes about this. But I do think that a lot of us are waiting for the broad church to say something before we do something. And we can't do that. There's a young lady that's a friend of mine. Her name is Lisa. And I think she's like maybe 18. God bless her. She's out here and she don't care. She organized a whole march for Black Lives Matter. Like, she's doing stuff, and she's 18, and she went and got whoever it is, the youth pastor for the conference or the district, whatever, was like, look, we need to do something. Now, to my personal taste, I think the protest a little bit too nice, but I didn't set it up. If I wanted to meet her protest, hey, I gotta go do it. She's doing something, and even if it's not exactly what I want to do, she's doing something, which is more than I can honestly say for myself. You don't need to wait for a big thing, like a whole umbrella, the whole organization to be like, okay, we authorize this, for you to be like, I'm going to do something even on a small scale for somebody else. It doesn't have to be a protest or a march or nothing, but just something small that you doing something for the cause. I think that's enough.
Arthur, would you like to weigh in?
Y'all spitting facts. All right, so let me just say that Jesus was an enemy of the state, of the Roman state, and he was executed by crucifixion for a crime that he didn't commit. Okay. And even after the crucifixion, King Herod had persecuted masses of people during the Passover. And so the thing is, there were people that were protesting in the Bible right after the crucifixion, and Jesus himself was advocating and protesting against, misinterpretation of scripture, how people use scripture in certain ways, even against, the ways of the devil and things like that. And so I think that my fundamental understanding of the gospel and the understanding of Jesus is rooted in justice. So there is no Jesus without justice, because Jesus started out as a justice. So the whole ministry, the whole life, and especially the crucifixion of Jesus is just a whole statement against oppression, against misogyny, against sexism, racism, and I think that we need to get back to really understanding what it really means to be Christian, because a lot of people just think that, okay, like, I'm Christian and I could just be like, okay, like, I'm a Christian and like that's it, and it's like I can just do whatever I want to do, and it's like, no, like, you are really, like, living a life that is led by God. Like, you're trying to be in the will of God and not in the will of man anymore. And and God is justice. God wants everybody to have a just life, and he wants everybody to have a well-being.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that. And I just want to weigh in really quickly with my thought about the church and social justice. I find it odd that we've been silent for so long, seeing as how we got, as African Americans, we got to where we were because of a church. Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, and so many others who were religious leaders were at the forefront of the civil rights movement. So I think it's very interesting how quiet we've been and how covert we've been with our stance. We like to do the general, as everybody's been saying, oh, Jesus is coming, these are signs of the time. And, this just shows us that we have to get ourselves ready. but we're not looking out for our neighbors, as Dylan said. And I really love that. Arthur, go ahead.
I just wanted to add real quick that when we talk about the founding of a lot of African American churches that are in America, the first one that we recognize is like the AME Church, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the AME Church was founded by Richard Allen when in 1787 he walked out of St. George's. He literally protested against like the Black church was founded based off of
protests
from slaveholder religion. Okay, that's what it was. And so when we talk about the history of the Black church, we're talking about the Richard Allens, we're talking about the Absalom Jones, we're talking about the Frederick Douglasses, we're even talking about the Sojourner Truths, we're talking about the Harriet Tubmans, we're talking about the Elizabeth Keckleys. We're talking about people who use scripture, use the Bible, and interpreted it in a different way to not subjugate our people, but to liberate our people.
Yeah.
That's the whole ministry in the life of Jesus Christ.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. We're going to shift a little, and this might feel, knowing what we're going to shift to, and after Arthur spoke so eloquently of Jesus Christ, it might feel a little odd. Because we're going to talk about a little bit about music and politics. And most notably, something that has been, I guess, causing a Twitter storm and a Facebook storm and an Instagram storm. Meg Thee Stallion and Cardi B released a sexually charged video that basically was a way of them taking ownership of female sexuality. And there were a lot of people out there that were offended by it. And there was a whole conversation that happened and continues to happen about female sexuality. My question to you guys is, what is it? And if you don't know the song that I'm referring to, it is WAP. It is about, to keep it Christian and politically correct in this environment, a healthily lubricated area on the female body, and how and how exciting it is to experience that. So my question to you guys is, what is it about females taking ownership of their bodies that polarizes people? And why does it seem like when women talk about their bodies, they're attacked? And when men do it, they in the hot tub, getting all, doing whatever they do with all the supermodels, they get praised for it. And it's something that for them is glamorized. And I'm gonna start with the women in the group, and then we'll, kick it out to Dylan and Arthur. So I'm gonna start with Mystique.
Okay, so I think that we talk about it often, but patriarchy is like a real something, you know what I mean? And I think about some of the videos and songs that we grew up with, like in the 90s and even prior to that, where it was okay for women to be shaking their butts and doing whatever, as long as it was for a man's gratification. If the man was in the middle and all the butts were shaking around him, there was no problem with that. Mm-hmm. But now young women are here, and it's just a whole bunch of women on the screen, not a man in sight, and they're talking about, the power, that a woman has, over to influence a man. Now it's a problem, so I just find it very interesting that men are okay with women's sexuality as long as it's for their gratification. But if a woman is owning it and saying, I'm doing this for me, and yeah, I got my tuition paid and he got my rent paid and all that kind of stuff because I put it on him, then it's a problem. Then it's a problem because she's owning it herself. And even from other women, we find that the same way we can internalize racism, as women, we can internalize misogyny and patriarchal ideas against ourselves. So I think that's why you're getting it from men and women. The men are upset and like, no, we shouldn't do that, so.
Thank you for sharing that, Mystique. F.L.O.W.
So, I'm gonna. This is definitely all to be based on patriarchy, misogyny, the whole 9 yards. Because logically, it doesn't make any sense. And a lot of the people that I'm seeing be angry about this song have not a leg, a knee, don't even have a pillow to kneel on, nothing. You got no cause, because WAP is not even the worst sexually charged song to come out of anything. I'm from a Caribbean background, okay? They were playing music around me at 5 that I had no business knowing the lyrics to, okay? So I feel like it's just so hypocritical to be like, oh, these young women today are, oh, Cardi B is leading these women. They are not the first of their kind. There is nothing new under the sun, okay? It's just two new people doing their own thing. I also think that part of it comes down to, on the part of Meg Thee Stallion. She gets her name from the fact that she's very tall. But she is only 5'9", which is tall for a woman. I say only, like, I'm 6 foot.
Right.
But she's tall. And someone pointed out to me the other day that Zendaya and Taylor Swift are the same height as Meg Thee Stallion. And Taylor has come out with some very suspicious songs. I don't listen to her anymore because she gives me a headache. But no one ever comes after Taylor for whatever stuff she's talking about. She made a whole career about talking about her ex-boyfriends. Like, but they come after Meg in a way that is just, I don't want to say unprecedented, but it's just unfair. Like, for the most part, Meg is just over there twerking, being happy and minding her business. Like, that's it. She happens to be tall, dark skinned, very beautiful, and not very concerned about what anybody else is worried about. And for Cardi B, she's not, I'm not gonna say she's dark skinned. She is fair complected. But she's from the Bronx. She's from the Bronx, okay? She is a hood girl who made her way up, doing it her way. And a lot of people have a problem with that. And I don't know why. It doesn't make any logical sense to me. I love to see it. I'm from the Bronx. I love to see somebody come on up and make it and have them to show for it. And she, to a large extent, hasn't changed, which I think is part of the reason that people don't like, what she's done, because she's still, to a large extent, the same way she used to be. And I think people feel like when you have certain money, certain things, you have to change how you act. But she's her, and that's it. And I love the song. I love them. There are a couple women that I think are just awesome. And I dig more or less what they stand for, because why can't I do in general what men have been doing for millennia? Okay, what's the difference? Someone said it. What is the difference between WAP and slob on the knob, or slob on my knob, or something like that? What's the difference? It's just because I'm talking about me and you talking about you, but now it's a problem because I'm talking about me. Please.
So I'll just put it out there. Vondell is the only person on this panel that knows what a knob is. The rest of us are good Christian people.
Mystique is married.
You know what? We all clueless. We all clueless here. I'm just kidding. All right. So we're gonna go to Dylan and Arthur really quickly.
Interesting stuff. I'm hearing this stuff for the first time. Whoa.
Lies, the lies you tell.
But nah, so like my native land is Trinidad, and my dad has always kept it real with me. Like he was like, yo, listen, before I came to the Lord, like I used to listen to this guy named the Mighty Sparrow. And I didn't know that he has some lyrics that make the songs we listen to today seem like it's cradle roll stuff, like it's kindergarten stuff. Like I'm hearing some stuff. I'm like, yo, this dude was nasty, son. Like I would never sing this or have it blasting in my car. And these dudes would like leave work on a Friday and they drinking Guinness, listening to stuff. But I mean, realistically, yes, it a lot of this music from like WAP and whatnot, like I feel like it started from a problem of us trying to objectify women, and it's become a sport in a sense where it's just like, all right, well, who can grab more attention, who can grab more eyes, more DMs, more numbers, more dudes looking at me or whatever. And it's a problem that started with men, and now I feel like some women are taking it upon themselves to like try to mask it and say, well, I'm just trying to show you that I'm not ashamed of my body, so let me just stick my butt in your face, like whatever. And I'm just like, that's all cool and fine, but the thing is, there's always a repercussion for every action, right? And I'm not saying that you can't be like, you can't be proud of your body and proud of what God blessed you with, but at the same time, it's like social media lives forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if that means that your 20-year-old son one day will see you for who you are today, will you be okay with that? And there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So I just feel like you kind of gotta, live one day at a time, but understand that everything you do has repercussions, and you kind of wouldn't want your kid to be teased at school because mommy's only fan page was found, and now the whole football team is like, I paid $15.95, I see your mom, and it's over. Like, he has to switch schools then. It's over.
Vidal, then we'll go to Arthur.
Just in response to that part. So I think that is okay. So the fact that you would tease me about, because look, I don't judge whatever you're doing. You don't get to come to me as my child and be like, oh, so-and-so at the school, it teased me because of this. Look, you got clothes on your back and a roof over your head because of what they teased me about. What you mad for? And me as a parent, I'm not going to say that I'm going to explain to my 6-year-old, hey, mommy does this for a living. But when they're older and of age, I'd probably be like, yo, just so nobody drops out of the sky and says this to you. But people can only make fun of you for something that you are insecure about or that you have a problem with. If I don't have an issue with my everything being all over the internet and everybody seeing what I got, you can't come for me for that. You can't, because I don't have an issue with it. And I do think that it is two-sided, that whenever a lot of people coming for Cardi B for this song because they're like, oh, what about her child? You know how many rappers? Future has 11 children. Nobody done asked him about none of his lyrics, about, oh, but he's a father. What about his kids? What if they hear these lyrics? Nobody asked him these questions. Why you asking Cardi? And she has said, like, because her kid's like 3 or 4, she doesn't play this type of music around her kid because she's 3 or 4. And like, Cardi B is not as dumb as people seem to think she is. But why in general, why are people asking Cardi this question when nobody asks Future and his kind this question, and they are infinitely, in my opinion, worse? Okay,
that's a great question.
You as a parent know your boundaries for your kid, and I mean, look, kids gonna get bullied about things regardless. It sucks if it's your mama's OnlyFans, but like I said, people can only make fun of you for things that you are ashamed of. If somebody comes to your kid and is like, oh my God, this, that, and the third, and you look at them and you're like, and your point, that's it. The conversation is done. It's over.
So thank you for that. We're gonna hop over to Arthur really quickly. Yeah, go ahead, Arthur.
So first of all, women's bodies, especially Black women's bodies, have been policed in and out of the church since forever. Okay, so let's just start there. Okay, and like Ebony Marshall Turman had wrote a book on that, so I'm not gonna get into that. So misogyny and hypocrisy is very prevalent in our society in regards to how men talk about women's bodies when men be doing stuff with their bodies and they be getting praise, or we be getting praise for the things that we call out women on doing, right? So it's like dudes can have girls in different area codes and go to like a Forbes 500 meeting, but a woman can't work on Wall Street and in the bed. You know what I'm saying? Women, especially Black women, can't do that. However, there's women that want to look like Black women, profit off of looking like Black women, and taking what Black women's ideas, taking Black women's culture, and when Black women say, no, I want to have, like I want to profit off of things that I was born with, things that I created, things that God gave me, it's like, it's a problem. So when we talk about Black women, especially advocating for their own bodies, there are men that get praised for doing both, but Black women are always held to a standard that is not the standard that men hold themselves to. Instead of teaching our children not to be over sexualized, we teach our children, okay, like, hey, like if he talks to you rude, then that's him hitting on you. Things like that. Like we teach our children, like, yo, like you have to cover up yourself instead of teaching them, no, this is just your body. Dudes can wear, like no shirt at the beach, or women have to wear, you know what I'm saying, all this stuff. And then like when women, don't cover up themselves, it's like, oh, it's a big deal. But yet Justin Bieber has boxer beef print shirt photos. Chris Brown does, Trey Songz does. And whenever they do it, it's like, oh, that's so cute. Oh my gosh. Shorty does it. As soon as Rihanna does it, it's like, oh, that's not cool.
It's too much. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? This actually reminds me of something that happened a few years ago at the Super Bowl. I don't know if y'all remember this or who was paying attention to sports at that time. Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson. When Janet Jackson was banned from the Super Bowl because of a wardrobe malfunction. And yeah, some people say allegedly. But listen, that's what
y'all
she
go
said.
Watch the tape. Go watch the
right.
tape.
You said go watch it.
So did the glove fit? That's all I have to say.
Well, anyway, I'm gonna be on my girl's side. So Janet Jackson was banned, whereas Justin Timberlake, there were no repercussions for him. So I think that's a prime example of what Arthur is talking about. I'm going to read a comment from YouTube that says, fact is, women should celebrate how their bodies are created. The Christian community is on the wrong side of the discussion if they want to make us ashamed of how we are created. The thing with Christian community is that we have hidden sex and shame instead of properly and appropriately owning that narrative. Now, that actually brings me to the last thing that I want to talk about before we switch over to the overflow. Do you think that churches do a good job of making it clear that women own their womanhood? Do you think that our churches do a good job of making it clear that women should own their womanhood? What do y'all think? We'll start with Mystique on this one.
Okay, so I'll say that in terms of that comment that you just read, I have 6 kids. I've been married for 16 years. These kids, they have seen a healthy amount of affection within our marriage, and they see, they see the affection that I have my husband. And they look, even my daughters, my 3-year-old was like, she came in the room and I was just doing a little shimmy, a little shake. She's like, yeah, mommy, shake your butt. It was hilarious to me. But the point is, it's okay to let kids see, we want to guide them. We don't want them to be out there promiscuous and doing whatever. We want to guide them, but it's okay to let them see that. And like that comment said, we've hidden it. We made it something that's like some dirty little secret or whatever. And so to come back to the question, I don't believe that the church has done a good job, just because, when I think about how even we police women in terms of what is worn to church. You don't hear nobody talking about men when they wear skinny pants or jeans or suits or whatever. Sometimes you could see all, whatever is going on in the crotch area,
right,
butt cheeks, everything. But as soon as a woman, is showing a little bit of cleavage, it's like, oh my goodness, the deaconesses come in wanting to cover people up and all kind of, so it's almost as if femininity is something to be ashamed of, and we really need to work on that.
I love what you said there, Vando. Oh, wait, really quickly. Dylan just said that Adam and Eve were naked. That was his side comment. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I said naked.
Oh, naked with 2 Ks. Go ahead, Vandal.
Mystique said about like the dressing of going to, as soon as you're 8, especially in like a Caribbean church or a Black church, as soon as you're 8, they're like, you need to look and dress like Ellen G. White. And I'm not even going to say cleavage, because Mystique said if you show a little cleavage. There was a picture, a meme going around, it comes and goes, and it was a Black woman. It's always a Black woman. And she is dressed professionally. Sis has on, I think it's a knee length or slightly below the knee length skirt. She has on like a button down shirt. And I think she was at church or some professional function. She happened to have a lot of cakes, okay? And someone was like, oh, is this appropriate for her to wear? What you want her to do? Leave her butt at home? Like, what?
I mean,
what people? She literally, like, there was nothing inappropriate about nothing she was wearing. Even if this were a burlap sack, she was well endowed. The Lord was kind to her. His hand was heavy that day, okay? What do you want her to do? And instead of just teaching, because I think there's a line between teaching young ladies and women how to dress to their shape, to their aesthetic, to, you know, what looks good on them, versus just telling women to just cover up. Because there's some young ladies who come into church and they're clearly just figuring themselves out. Oh, I can wear this, I can wear that, and it don't look good on them. Not saying that's inappropriate. It's just not for their body shape, for their whatever it is. And instead of someone going to them and being like, yo, sis, how about me and you go shopping and we go do that, I help you out, this, that, and the third. I'm gonna teach you how to this, that, and the third. All they do is go over and be like, that skirt is inappropriate for church. Well, I ain't coming back because I don't know what's wrong with my skirt. I happen to like it. I picked it out because it was cute. And now you're yelling at me. I come to church and I want to go up on you. You told me to come up in the pulpit to read something, and my last stocking had a run in it, and I didn't feel like coming out here looking raggedy, so I didn't wear no stockings. And now you're telling me I can't go up on the pulpit because I'm saying stockings. These are all just ridiculous things to me that feed into the mentality of I need to cover up all of me instead of just presenting myself properly, learning to present myself properly. And I think we do a lot of young women, especially, a disservice in that we don't teach them to just present themselves properly, to dress nicely, to look cute. You know, pick how do you makeup, pick clothing pieces. We just tell them that is bad. And we don't tell them what the good option is. And that's just the end of the conversation.
Okay, so thank you for sharing that. And I actually had a quick twist to add to Arthur and Dylan as they answer this question. Do you think that why do you think that there's more of a focus on women covering up than there is on men in the church? Dylan first, since he's shaking his head that he don't want to answer the question.
I don't agree.
Okay, you don't, so tell me.
I'm gonna be honest. And not that I paid attention, but Mystique, you said some dudes wear like so tight suits that you can see like print and stuff. I don't know about that one. If that happened, you sitting down and something's about to tear. I'm just saying, unless it's like, you know, like I don't know, with spandex or something. That's weird. But
I've seen it.
All right, I different. Now I can understand if, let's say, you know, a dude's wearing a turtleneck and, you know, he's kind of buff and it's like it's tight. Like, no, go home and change. Like, I get it. You know what I mean? And the thing is, of course, a guy will get praise for that per se, and then, you know, a woman, you know, a elder sees her and he's just like, listen, nah, you gotta cover up. You know, your breasts are showing or whatever. Now there is a limit when you're coming to church of what you should probably avoid, I think. Because the thing is, yes, while you love your body and you love your shape and you're happy about who you are, you also don't want to like send somebody else into like a frenzy and they're like, oh my gosh, like, yo, like she is dumb. That, like, if you can't avoid it, I get it. But if you can, if possible, just, you know, like keep it chill, because the thing is, like, a lot of women know they're beautiful, and they will come to church and be like, listen, I'm gonna be honest, Johnny played that piano and I'm on the praise team and I'm trying to be seen today, so it's about to go off, and I'm about to do it at Oakwood Spirit Week or whatever. Yeah, I mean, like, it happens. It happens. But I just think there's a level. Just saying.
I'm sorry. So I have a question on that one. And Vondo, we're actually gonna switch over to the overflow in a second, so you can get it all out there.
You gotta let Vondo. You gotta let her go.
I will. She'll go. But I just want to let everybody know that we are switching over to the overflow really soon, and you can find the link to the overflow in the in the YouTube chat. And also, really quickly, Dylan. So you're saying that guys don't dress for women?
No, they do.
So why isn't the same conversation being had with guys? Don't dress a certain way to attract women.
So they should if you come to church and, like, you brolic as hell and you have this white shirt on super tight, again, go home. Like, don't, like, your buttons is popping off. Like, bro, your pants too tight, dog. Like, it's the same conversation for them. I believe, because there's a certain point where it kind of makes other people uncomfortable in a sense. I'm not saying to go and police people with the clothes they wear, but there has to be some sort of limit where it's like, if someone comes to church in, like, bra and panties, like, you're all right, come on. Like, what are we gonna do here? Like, realistically.
So somebody has a comment for you from the YouTube section, Dylan, and it says, Dylan about to catch it. Sir, control yourself. It ain't sis' fault that she's fine.
Again.
And with that, we're gonna go to Arthur, because I think that was one of our that was actually one of our panelists that put that there. So we're gonna go to Arthur really quickly, and then we'll switch over to the overflow.
Can you say the question again? I'm
sorry. So the question was, because I was going on a tangent.
There were two questions, I think.
The question for the guys was, why do you think it is that people are so obsessed, I call it obsession, with the way that women come to church, yet they don't have the same conversation or the same feeling around what men wear when they come to church? Why is it just seems like women get policed more than men do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Dylan said that, basically said that the conversation that he would have with a man who's improperly dressed is the same conversation that he would have with a woman. Now, I don't like to say that, like, you know, at my church or at my school, then this is what we do, because you're asking about, like, the church in general. So,
right.
So the church in general has a double standard. The church in general is misogynistic. Okay, the church in general tries to silence the voices of women all the time, and they try to police the bodies of women and what women can do with their bodies. Now, I do believe that people should come to the church as they are. Okay, they should join, come as you are. I do believe that firmly. If you're coming in biker shorts and a tank top, come with biker shorts and a tank top. We will openly receive you with the love of Jesus Christ. Okay. However, there is a standard of dress once you come thereafter, because the worship experience is not based on, like, how we look. It's based on who we are inside and, like, what we're bringing to the worship experience. And it can be distracting. That's why they started wearing robes in the church and all that, because, you know, they want to limit all the distractions. Now, my question with this is, what do women think is the standard? What is the limit, right? Like, because I think that the limit is different with different types of body, with different types of physiques and different types of body styles. Because the standard for Black women's bodies may be different. If you have a little bit more curves, then like, you might have a different standard of dress. You might have to consider different options. You may You may have a different type of conversation with your mama who also has curves. Okay. So I just think that, that question really comes to mind for me as to like think of, what is that standard for y'all? Like, what do y'all think that standard should be?
Okay, and actually that'll be the question that we transition over with. What is the standard for women when they come to church? And men, what is yours? Welcome to the overflow. All righty. Do we have any newbies? I see somebody with their hand up, but I'm deliberately ignoring right now. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, youth and young adults.
Yeah, so as somebody who has experienced the pressure of just being attractive and just having to wear what I can wear to go to church, I feel like my man Dylan, I gotta hold you accountable, man, to this idea of I don't think it's fair for women to be policed in the manner that they have, because if you good looking, you good looking. Like you can't fault how the suit falls on the skin and the curves. You just can't do it. And sometimes I can't leave the guns at home. You know what I'm saying? Like they're always stocked and loaded. All right, no. In all seriousness, what I think is amazing about our platform is talking about these topics, because I think I have been called out. I've called myself out on the idea of the issue is not what sis is wearing, is what I'm thinking about sis as she's wearing it. And so I prefer her not to wear it above me working on my own thoughts about her wearing it. Right? Let me say it again. Like, it's not that what most women wear to church and how it falls on our beautiful Nubian queens. The issue is not what they're wearing. It is the thoughts we have when they wear it. And so because we have the power and the platform and the privilege as men, we therefore use that power and privilege to dictate what it is that they wear instead of addressing our thoughts about what it is that they're wearing. And I'm saying that as a guy, right? Like I'm saying it as I have to catch myself, because unfortunately, I think culturally we are trained from young to just look for certain things, see certain things. Like I used to have my boys actually glorify me, because it's like, if I was in a mall, like I had 360 radar. Like it wouldn't even matter. I'd be like, yo, top deck, walking around. Like how my head is on a swivel all the time. How do you untrain that though? Like how do you untrain that when you're in church? You should be focusing on God. Your mind is still on a swivel and it's therefore not on God. So I'm actually gonna hold us all accountable, but also understanding as a man who just wears good suits. I don't fault you ladies. Work on your mindsets. It's okay. I'll do better about what I wear. Just saying.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. We do have Landy, and I definitely want to hear from Landy on this. Really quickly though, I just think it's funny that men are telling, like, toward the end of the conversation, the men were saying, if you fit in this category, this is what you should be wearing, or this is what you should. It's just funny. I just wonder, like, is it up to a man? Should the man be dictating what the woman wears? Whoa. My answer is no. But Landy, please jump in and welcome.
Hey, so I think two things on this, and thank you for having this. I just got the text a few minutes ago. Two things. I think that, yes, I think it's inappropriate for a man to police the body of a woman. I believe that a lot of times it comes from a place of, because I, as the man, I have an issue with my eyes and that's what I see, then I now try to make you responsible for me. I think that you need to own your stuff. And then we on our side will do what we need to do to make sure that we are also being responsible to you. That's the first thing. Second thing, I think that there is a need for and I'm probably older than everyone here, right? I think that there is a need for the generational mentorship in the female community. I think that generations of women, we just look and say, oh, poor baby, she don't even know, and you let her go.
Yeah.
I think that the older women need to help maybe the younger ones whose mother, I'm a West Indian, out of a West Indian family, whose mother didn't say, where you slipped, make sure you can't see through your skirts, make sure that this, make sure you understand and you're self-aware of your body type and how to dress for it, right?
Yeah.
That's real, because as Black women, we spread in different places that are all good and blessings. But that does not mean that we come up during the doxology and we spread for the whole church.
It doesn't?
Okay. Okay. But I think that the mentorship is required in the generations, and it's important. And it will be helpful. So I think there are two parts to it. One, yes, the man side, and the other being the female side.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Krista. Welcome, and please feel free to share. We want to hear your input. You're on mute. Yes.
I didn't know y'all wanted me to talk, that's why.
Oh, no. I mean, we definitely want to hear your perspective on all of this. If you'd like to share.
I can clearly relate one time when I was, I believe I was in Sabbath school. I believe I was like a late teen at that time. I mean, I don't have a cake, but I have drumsticks. So I was wearing a dress and I was sitting down, and I thought my dress was covering. It was like a knee-high dress, but when I sit down, it kind of pulls up just above the knee. So I was crossing my legs and I was completely aware to try to cover myself. And as Sabbath school was going, one of the female elders kind of passed by, saw me trying to do my best to, stay covered. And she's telling me, you need to keep your legs closed, when my legs are already like crossed like this. And I'm just like, well, what you want me to do? I can only cross my legs so much. I mean, it's not my fault that I was double jammed by both generations with drumstick legs. So I can relate when you're trying to do your best as a 70 Adventist woman to cover up and it's still not enough.
Thank you for sharing that, Krista.
So I actually wanted to address something too, because I know we're going to end up, I don't want the overall topic to be lost. And I think we talked about platform and responsibility for those who have platform. And when we talk about pop culture and we look at our opinions about NBA players and NFL players and celebrities, I can't help, as somebody who is fairly active in this church, in the body of believers that I am, like, we're going to hold ourselves accountable, just like we're saying holding men accountable to their eyes in church. Like, when are we going to hold our church accountable to our, I got Landy's, I got that Landy's, like, well, but seriously, when are we going to hold our church accountable to what's not being said, right? And I'll make it inclusive to the men, right? Somebody in the chat said, it's not the first look that's a problem, right? Admiring God's blessing. So shout out to every man. You got one look freedom from somebody in the chat. It's the second look. It's the second look that gets you. But here's the thing. It's not the first time you don't say nothing. It's your continual silence that creates an issue. So my thing is, when are we going to hold the church accountable to those things, particularly as it relates to the injustices that we're talking about? So that's my question for some of the panelists and people out there.
I just wanted to jump in real quick, backtracking a little bit. I want us to remember the time when Jesus said, if you're tempted by a woman, go tell her to cover up. Because he didn't say that. He said, gouge your eye out if it offends you. He said, if your eye offends you, gouge it out. He didn't say go and tell her what to put on or whatever else. If your hand offends you, chop it off. It's better you going to heaven maimed, blind, whatever else, than, you know what I'm saying? So I think that we all have to be mindful of our personal responsibilities for ourselves, And I know I know it's tough for men, you know, because y'all are built a certain way. Y'all are built to see the things, even if you're not conditioned, like Rob said. Even without the conditioning, I do believe that biologically men are built to see that stuff. You know what I mean? But the thing is, as women, we've been so trained to suppress that. It's like, yeah, we're kind of built that way too. I notice, you know, that man's pecs and that man's whatever, if it's hanging all out. And what I love about social media is that women are really flipping the script on guys, where the jokes, the amount of jokes calling men fast and fresh and all that for this whole gray sweatpants trend. Like, you know what you're wearing, cover up. You know what I mean? Because it's like, we're flipping it around on y'all, because men have been free for so long to just walk around however they want. You go outside in the summertime, everybody's shirtless, you know, cutting the grass with no shirts on, tan lines, all that kind of stuff. Let a woman come out cutting her grass in shorts and a bra, and all hell gonna break loose. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to really, you know, kind of hammer that point of, we need to take personal responsibility for ourselves. Like, if you really struggling, talk to Jesus. Don't, you know what I mean? Like, you don't gotta, you know, like I'm saying, you know, from the hills from whence cometh your help, that's where you need to turn your eyes, instead of worrying about what the other person got on. Now, I gotta ponder a little bit that last question. I'll let somebody else jump on if they want.
So Mystique, I don't know if you caught this, but you had Dylan gouging his eyes out just now.
I'm gonna gouge out my eyes because I have a problem.
He was,
and I will admit it. I will admit
it. It be like that sometimes.
I'm a victim.
Lord Jesus. Alexia, go ahead.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I think I agree with a lot of things and I disagree with a lot of things. I think my problem with this conversation is oftentimes, if you do it, I should do it too, right? It's not that what you're doing is wrong and it's not healthy spiritually, physically, emotionally to you and to other people. It's, oh, you're doing it, so I should do it too. Anybody can choose to do whatever they want to do, but I think we want, the saying is, you want your cake and you want to have your cake and eat it too. It doesn't work like that. We are responsible for each other. When you talk about, I am my brother's keeper, I am my sister's keeper, when we talk about why the generation before us is the way they are, it's because of the generation before them. When we have those conversations, we can't have these conversations in vacuums as if it's my life and it doesn't apply to anybody else. It doesn't work that way. So my thing is, men have to do their part and women have to do their part, right? But not because a man is flaunting his body or a woman is flaunting his body, that doesn't mean I should do it too, because it may not, it doesn't affect them a certain way. It may affect somebody else a certain way. So if we go in that mentality, then we wonder why our society is in the way that it is right now. That's my thing. I also want to make a point of, it's similar about the whole, and I agree with what Landy, sorry. I really agree with your point in terms of what our personal role in this is, because even with this conversation, the women here, we are pretending as if we don't have motives also, right? We are highlighting the motives of the men and stuff like that, which is fine because they were highlighting themselves also. But we have to be honest about what role we play in this. We have to be honest, like just like the man who was looking or dressing for the woman, we have to be honest that we dress for men too. I wear plenty of dresses that if I had to say, if God was here, would it be comfortable? No, it wouldn't. But did I wear it anyway? Yes. We have to be honest with that if we want to have an honest conversation. And about the whole WAP conversation, my thing is,
Arthur's face is killing me.
You can love yourself, and every woman should strive to have a WAP. Praise the Lord. You should strive to get it, strive to have it. I mean, you should, right? But my problem with this conversation is that's showing that you're comfortable with your body. That idea of wearing a shorts with your body jaw out, wearing something with your nipples. Oh, men do it all the time. So why can't women? Men talk about how women should slobber on their knob. Why can't we? no, my thing is, what kind of people are we trying to be? When you had a lot of Black feminists back in the day was really against Black rappers objectifying Black women in their videos. And then to turn around and say, oh, I'm taking back my power by objectifying myself. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then to, in the same breath, to say that we're not responsible for the little children, because we have to be honest, our children spend most of the time outside of the home. So when we can monitor everything in the home, they're getting everything outside of the home. And to then say, oh, it's not my responsibility, or it's not their responsibility to know, to manage their platform, to really influence the world in a healthy, spiritually, mentally way, it's really irresponsible, because we can't complain about the problems that we're in and we're finding ourselves in and still saying we want to have this too. You gotta give up one of them. It doesn't work.
Thank you, Alexia, for those comments. And I just wanted to really quickly, because we only have 4 minutes left here. I just wanted to say that I think at least my issue is not if they do it, I should be able to do it too. It's equal accountability. So if you're going to be telling me I shouldn't do X, Y, and Z, there should be some accountability on your part as well. I think that's for me, that's the basis of everything. Just being equal in accountability.
I agree.
Yeah. So Landy, did you have your hand up? Okay, go ahead.
I did. I just wanted to quickly just touch on the WAP, because I know you guys have a few minutes, right? So I have 3 daughters, 12, 13, 14-year-old children, okay? And I made sure that when that song came out, that I introduced them to that song and that we had a conversation about it. The reason for that is because I don't need anybody else telling them about how they should receive this newfound WAP thing that we've been living for years, okay? And so the reason for that is because I think it's important that they not receive shame from it. So the church may try to put shame on top of the WAP, not understanding that, honey, if you follow in the health message, that's what your body should be doing. So,
okay.
So hello, that's what you should be doing. So don't be ashamed of it. That's something that we should celebrate, but all within the proper context. And so I have a conversation to make sure that I lay the proper context for my young children. But trust and believe that I, as a grown woman, married for almost 20 years, will not be ashamed of the WAP, because guess what? That's how the Lord created us. Okay. And so the church needed to get in front of that narrative. And they needed to be like, yo, yes, this is how we are created. This is how God created us. The church needed to say that, as opposed to having Cardi and Meg and anybody else that want to come out and talk about it, as opposed to having them come out and control that narrative. The church missed an opportunity and should have been in front of that narrative from jump. That's all I got. Okay, done.
Okay, thank you so much. That was so first of all, that was loaded, because one of the things that we've been discussing internally as a F.L.O.W team is why the church is so uncomfortable with talking about sexuality, especially to our girls and our women. There are a lot of women who don't know what they got and don't know how to work the mechanics of everything, and so I agree with you. We need to be ahead of the curve when it comes to things like that. And so that people hear about it in the proper context, and they don't hear about it from people who are perfectly okay with, yeah, go ahead.
I got one more thing. And I would be remiss if I did not say, might I add, that you owning your stuff, it comes with responsibility. So you don't just own it and throw it wherever. You own it and you are responsible for that thing. So let's not miss the fact that, yes, it's mine. This is what I do, but I'm responsible for it, which means that I'm also now responsible to the men that are around me. That's all of my responsibility. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay.
We got power. We got that, Anyway,
well,
really quickly, somebody said pass the offering plate. I wanted to say something really quickly that I was supposed to say a while ago. So I said that Tomi Lahren was the person who said to LeBron James that he needs to shut up and dribble. It was actually Lauren Ingram. So I just wanted to make that correction, that it was Lauren Ingram who said that and not Tomi Lahren. Arthur, we saw you taking notes. We saw you taking notes just now when Landy was talking. So we just wanted to acknowledge that. I think Arthur and Pierre had something to say, and then we're going to close this whole thing out. Oh, you didn't have anything to say. Okay. Did Pierre want to say something?
Yeah, real quick. First of all, thank you, Landy, for that. I always love hearing your point of view because you keep it fresh. And I hope that you come back again in the future.
Yeah, we got to have you back.
Yeah. So anyway, but real quick, I wanted to touch on what Rob was saying about being accountable and holding the church accountable, holding the church as in the church organization, but the church body as well, the individual members that make up the church, holding us accountable as men. One verse that I thought was always interesting, you know, we talk about the Proverbs 31 woman, but there's also Job 31. Job 31 talks about Job having a covenant with his eyes. And if I look inappropriately at another man's wife, may she grind on another man's whatever millstone, whatever it is. I think that that's very serious. But I think sometimes there isn't a when you, Susan, you mentioned this about being accountable. It's important for us to be accountable in different aspects, and there isn't always a direct corollary. So, for example, for a man needs to be accountable to the words that he says and how he talks to young women or how he talks to other women, his peers or whatever it may be. And a woman would not want a man to be flirting indiscriminately without holding himself accountable. I could say, oh, I didn't mean anything by that. I didn't say anything. You need to, you know, guard your own heart. You need to deal with it. But it's still important for us as men to be accountable to how we relate, even if we want to say that responsibility on how somebody receives that is on their end. In that aspect, the same thing with how women wear whatever it is that they wear, or how men receive it, or how men wear what they wear. I wholeheartedly agree. We all have an accountability to each other on how we control ourselves, as well as how we relate to one another, for everything, not just how we dress. So that's just keep us accountable for that.
Thank you, Pierre. Arthur, really quickly, and then we'll close.
Yeah, so really quickly, I just want to reiterate some things that was said already. Like Alexia had talked about, you know, society playing a role in how our children are being taught. And even though it starts in the home, even though the home is the foundation, even though we get our financial things from the home, the outside influences play a big role in how our, you know, children see the bodies of women, you know, and we are taught by these music videos. We are taught by what we see in media and in movies and even at church. And so I think that it is important for us to hold certain people responsible for how they teach our children, you know what I'm saying, through these platforms that they have. And sometimes that includes advocacy, whether it's through the NFL way or the NBA way. And then also, Landy, girl, you better unapologetically stretch your stuff, okay? and it's like that is the type of unapologetic, not like, okay, like I'm better than somebody else, but it's like, hey, I'm proud of what God gave me. I'm going to take care of myself so that I have a WAP.
Thank
I'm
you
trying
for
to be
that.
like as PC and PG as possible.
Yeah, we hear you. We hear what you're screaming. And look at, I mean, if you see our flyer, we tried to keep it PC too, a taco, a peach, and water drops. So read between the lines on that one. Anyway, just really quickly, as we bring this to a close, just want to remind everybody that we do have a platform, and it's important for us to use it for the good of those around us. We have an influence, and we have an obligation as Christians to promote Christ and to be examples to whoever we come in contact with, even if we don't believe what they believe politically. It's our number one job is to promote Christ and to advocate for those who don't have a voice. Those are our responsibilities as Christians. Don't forget to buy your t-shirt, people. Okay, check out the F.L.O.W t-shirt. We are using the funds that we raised from the selling of these t-shirts to do more in our community. We don't keep the funds, we pour them into our community. We want to do cool things for kids, like support school lunch and provide things during the pandemic, school supplies during the pandemic. So please, 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 if you can, support us by purchasing a F.L.O.W t-shirt. Thank you so much. This has been a great discussion, and we can't wait to see you next week. Love you all.